Hey, my name's Izzy. This is Rolling Virtual Cards coming at you with another good enough Magic the Gathering podcast. This time, we're going to finish the ranking of all the way too many legendaries from Final Fantasy. Both the precons and the set. If you're wondering, where's my hat? Why am I not wearing headphones? It's too hot. It's too hot, and I've realized, I kind of knew this, and I kind of just didn't give a crap, and now I'm deciding to give a crap. My videos make too much noise in the background, and that's why people turn them off, and so I'm just trying this out. I've got my air off, which is awful, no fan running, and due to that, I'm not wearing a hat. It gets too hot, and I'm not got my headphones on, because they get too hot, so you're just gonna get me. But, if you respect that, why not subscribe? Let's just hop into the multicolor now. Here we got Absolute Virtue. This is 6, a white and a blue for an 8/8 legendary creature avatar warrior. This spell can't be countered. Flying, and you may you have protection from each of your opponents, which means you can't be dealt damage, enchanted, or targeted by anything controlled by your opponents. Now, this is actually pretty awesome in the long run, guys. What this is going to do for you is just be another Voltron commander. I'm sorry. This set, honestly, someone at Wizards of the Coast sat down and just said, what do we do for this commander that's not going to be played anywhere but standard? Why don't we just make it viable as a Voltron commander? Okay, cool. It can't be countered, so you don't got to worry about the blue players. It has flying, so you don't have to give it evasion. It 3-shots everyone.
Your question seems to be about a game where some actions can't be counted.
I did not talk to Google there. Thanks. That was strange. Yeah, so it can't be countered, so you don't have to worry about blue things. It's got flying, so it's got evasion. It's an 8/8, so it 3-shots people. And then it gives you protection, so burn players are out. You can't, I guess the odd curse players are dead in the water, and like you can't be damaged, so they can't attack you either. Like they can, but you're not going to take the damage from them. So you just kind of win. Just give it hexproof and indestructible, and just start swinging. It's a pretty effective commander, and I think as a Voltron commander, it hits a 4. I think it's like one of the best Voltron commanders you can do. Because, like, in 4, you're going to be seeing a lot of counters, and now you don't got to worry about them. What you do have to worry about is someone removing it as soon as it hits the field. So you got to make sure you can, like, protect it right away. So cast it, and make sure you can just go quip. Hexproof. Good. So that's the hope. That's what you're aiming for. And I think as a 4, it can really get there. Next up is Sid. Okay. I want to build this deck. And only because I want to build Sid, too many Sids. So Sid, Timeless Artificer, is 2, a white and a blue for a 4/4 legendary creature, human artificer. Artifact creatures and heroes you control get +1/+1 for each artificer you control, and each artificer card in your graveyard. A deck can have any number of cards named Sid, Timeless Artificer. Cycling, white-blue. Discard this card, draw a card. Sid, Timeless Artificer is hilarious. And it is the first deck that you can technically build the entire deck in Commander with just 100 Sids. You can just have Sid and then 99 Sids. Does it work? No, it doesn't. That doesn't work. Nope. Unfortunate, but you could build it with... technically, if you want it to function, but in a terrible way, if you want the worst possible, but still playable deck, here's my cat, guys, but still playable deck, here's what you do, guys, okay? Sid is your commander, and then you just need 2 planes and 2 islands. This will allow you to cycle all the Sids in your deck, and then this will allow you to cast the Sids in your deck. Okay? That's all you need. Okay? That is how you build the worst but still playable deck in Commander now. So that would be 4 lands and 96 SIDS. The true way to build this is to just run Sid as your commander and run like 33 SIDS. Sid can be kind of your card draw engine because you can cycle it to thin your deck out for 2. You would run the cards to make it so that legendary effects don't matter, so that way you can get around the Sid being legendary. And then you can do stuff like, artifact creatures and heroes you control get +1/+1 for each artificer you control, and each artificer card in your graveyard. So actually, you don't even have to run that, because once Sid's on the field, you're just discarding your Sids into your graveyard. Just like get them into the graveyard. And actually, if you want a really funny deck, you can run Sid and persistent partitioners and mill yourself, but I honestly wouldn't do that. You already have a way to put them in your graveyard. So Sid's gonna buff your artifact creatures. You're just gonna mill them. I think Sid's a fun deck. I don't think it's necessarily a good deck. I think it gets stuck at 3. I think there's something to do here. I think there's a build here. There's plenty of good sheep artifact, like 0s and 1s, where they will get buffed by Sid, and you can go for kills. But I don't think it gets to 4. I think it just kind of sits there, okay? That's my honest opinion, okay? Next up is Hope Estheum. Hope Estheum is a blue and a white and a blue for a 2/2 legendary creature human wizard with lifelink. At the beginning of your end step, each opponent mills X cards, where X is the amount of life you gained this turn. Okay, so X is the amount of life you gained this turn. During the end step, each opponent mills X cards. Oh! Okay, I like this commander. I want to build this guy. So, lifelink, at the beginning of each end step, each opponent mills X cards, where X is the amount of life you gained this turn. Your end step. Okay. So if you gain like 20 life, each opponent mills 20 cards. Yeah, this is a mill deck. Now, mind you, this is not a mill deck where you're running all these super fun mill cards. This is a mill deck where you're running a bunch of life gain, and then the life gain mills your opponents, right? So this is a life gain deck with a win con of milling your opponents out. So then you don't lose because your opponents can't kill you because you're gaining life, and you win by milling them out. I actually think this, weirdly enough, hits 4. 4 does tend to have, sometimes you'll end up running into someone that runs win cons, like I win the game or you lose the game, and when you run into that, you will end up with problematic issues of someone just removing you from the game, so life gain doesn't win. But you have less of a chance of running into your Voltron decks, which is good, and you have less of a chance of running into your less of a chance of running into Voltron decks. Because the biggest issue with life gain, the counteraction to life gain, is Voltron. Or I win or you lose. So, you have more I win and you lose cards in this game, like, infinite win con, right? But I think it's still kind of a fun way, and I think you could do that in 4. I think you can build people out pretty well. Next up is Krill Balladson. Blue and a white, or white and a blue for a 2/1 dwarf wizard with lifelink. Trace Ether. Trace Ether. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you may return target creature card with mana value equal to that spell's mana value from your graveyard to your hand. Do this only once each turn. It's a non-creature spell. You may return target creature card. Okay, this is very difficult, kind of. So the most common number you could do is 2. So this would be a fun deck where you just only run 2-drops and push to mainly only run 2-drops, and you run creatures and non-creatures. And then your creatures end up in your graveyard, and then your non-creatures are added back to your hand. And I think that could be a very fun deck. I don't think it gets higher than the 3. I think the limitations you're setting upon yourself gets you stuck at a 3. Maybe even a 2? Yeah, maybe even a 2. I think a strong 2, but still a 2. You could... Okay, the thing about this deck is you could say that, like, if you really want to sit there and analyze everything, you could get to the point where you're running, like, specific things where you run a creature that when it enters the battlefield, you can sacrifice it to return an instant sorcery to your hand. And, like, the creature's a 1-drop, and you sacrifice it for 1, and the card you cast is a 1-drop, and you can kind of loop it. So you can find some type of loop like that. But I still think that's hard, and it's not really worth it. I think it just hits a 2. Lis Hexit is 1 a blue, or 1 a white and a blue for a 2/2 human rebel monk. Prowess. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, this creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Non-creature spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. As long as you cast 2 or more non-creature spells this turn, Lis Hexed has double strike. Okay, this is fun. So, as long as you cast 2 or more non-creature spells this turn, Lis Hex has double strike. What that is reading to me is get it to 11 and punch someone. With prowess, so, let's see, what's the numbers you need? You're missing red. So pump spells are hard. You're missing red and green. Missing red and green. Non-creature spells, though. So, auras. Auras are big. Green auras can, blue and white auras can pump. If you cast, like, 2 auras that pump, right? Like, 2 auras bring it to 4. If both auras bring it to 4 because of prowess. If both auras are giving it like +1, that's 5, 6. That's not enough. But as long as you can get it to 7, if you get it to 7, then that's a 2-shot on someone. That's 7/7 because of the double strike because you cast 2 non-creature spells. Yeah, this is an aura deck, not a pump deck. If you had red, it'd be a pump spell deck, but you're not in red or green. So this is an aura. This is an enchantment deck where you cast your enchantments and then you hit people and you go like bam, 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 or I guess you go bam, bam, right? With your prowess. Okay, so you're like aura, bam, bam, aura, bam, bam. Aura, bam, bam. And just spreading the love. You don't have to worry about giving a double strike. And there's enough ways to draw cards. Yeah, I like this. Hey guys, look. It's another Voltron. Putting it at 3. Next up is Titus, Blitzball Star. This is 1 white and a blue for a 2/1 human warrior. Whenever an artifact you control enters, put a 1/1 counter on Titus. Whenever Titus attacks, tap target creature an opponent controls. So, whenever an artifact you control enters, put a 1/1 counter on Titus. Okay. So, is Titus going to be a good guy? Is he a fun commander? Is he great? I'm sorry, guys. It's a Voltron. It's another Voltron, guys. Welcome to Voltron Fantasy. You know, I thought they gave us Final Fantasy set, not the Voltron set. Thought that was going to be later. I never even knew they announced it. I never heard any conversations about the Voltron set, right? Actually, a Voltron set would probably be less of a Voltron deck. But yeah, this is a Voltron set. Why? Because when an artifact you control enters, put a 1/1 counter on Titus. What am I supposed to do with that? And when it attacks, you tap target creature an opponent controls. You run stuff to double up his triggers, to tap stuff so you can make sure he hits. And you run equipments so that he gets 1/1 counters. And then you put the equipments on him so that he can hit people. That's all you're doing. That is all this deck is. Is just... And then you run like cheap 0 and 1 drop artifacts that enter the battlefield that you can sacrifice and draw cards. It's a Voltron, but it's not great, so I'm putting it 2. Well, I mean, it has ways to draw cards. I'll put it at 3. I mean, it's not drawing cards, but it has ways to draw cards in the form of, like, the artifacts. Yeah. Uringar Urgorelt is a white and a blue for a 1/3 elf advisor. Whenever you play a land from exile or cast a spell from exile, you gain 2 life. Draw Arcanum. Tap, look at the top card of your library, you may exile it face down. Play Arcanum. Tap. Until end of turn, you may play cards exiled with Uringar. Spells you cast this way cost 2 less to cast. Okay, this is interesting. You run ways to untap and tap it, so you can just tap and exile the top card and then do it again. This is a 4. This is a 4 because this is an extra turn deck. And the reason this is an extra turn deck is because this gives you a way to cast extra turn spells for 2 less, which is gross. So casting your 5-drop extra turn spells for 3 is kind of gross. Or your other big, like, draw a bunch of card spells for, like, 2 less is gross. So I think you can do a lot with this up there. And extra turns have no place in, like, 3. So I think that's where it goes. I don't think you're doing much else with it anywhere else. It's too slow and kind of boring in the other decks. You really want to break that cost casting. You can do kind of big dumb stuff, but the best big dumb stuff you can do in these 2 colors is extra turns. Okay. Emmett Selch, the 3rd seat, is 2, a blue and a black for a 3/4 Elder Wizard. Spells you cast from your graveyard cost 2 less to cast. Whenever one or more opponents lose life, you may cast target instant sorcery card from your graveyard. If that spell would be put into your graveyard, exile it instead. Do this only once each turn. Okay, some people talked about this. I think it was Playing with Power. Talked about this for CEDH just a little. Because it's like a bad Kess, but Kess isn't even CEDH anymore. Kess is playable in CEDH. It's just not, like, great in CEDH, right? So this one's just like, okay, whenever one or more opponents lose life, you can cast an instant sorcery card from your graveyard. If that spell would be put into your graveyard, exile it instead. Do this only once each turn. So as long as you can ping each opponent once, and it's lose life. So even if they fetch, you can just cast an instant sorcery from your graveyard. So you can just do, like, some simple instant sorcery stuff in your graveyard. This leads you... Okay. This instantly, in my opinion, hits a 4. I don't think it's good enough to hit a 5. I think you're, like, limited. You could probably push it to 5. I think... Here's the thing. I think if you made Emmett and went to a CEDH table and said, this is my Emmett deck, and you were just like, yeah, and you exile it instead... cast target instant sorcery. You do have to pay for it, but you do break rules. You can cast it instant sorcery, so you can cast those at instant speed. So you can, someone takes damage, you can cast that instant speed extra turn spell from your graveyard for 2 less. Oh yeah, right. Or you can cast that counter spell for at instant speed, right? So how do you do that though? Well, I think simply put, on the stack, you would need to be able to deal damage to your opponent. So this is a weird deck. The reason why this loses to, like, the reason why this isn't a great CDH deck is because you have to morph your deck to run cards that aren't great, right? You've got to run cards that are like, I deal damage to you. And it doesn't have to be the turn player, it just has to be damage to someone. I deal 1 damage to target opponent, right? If you can deal 1 damage to an opponent, or make one opponent lose a life, right? Then Emmett triggers, and you can be like, boom, counter that spell. Or boom, I'm going to take an extra turn after this one. And you can just kind of keep going. There's a lot you can do, and I think you can build off of that to make a deck that just allows you to kind of go pretty well. And even so, I think where something like Uringer is like, there's a lot you gotta do to get it to work. Emmett's just like, can I get an extra turn spell in my graveyard easily? Oh, I can? Cool. Now it's 2 less as long as I can make my opponent lose life. Oh, they lost a life? Cool. Let's just cast my 5-drop, take an extra turn spell. Or let's cast... I mean, like, you could even go and cast, like... Oh, I forget the name of it. The 5-drop instant that you draw in CDH. Do that and have it be 2 less. That'd be kind of cool. But I think it hits CDH. Emmett Selch Uncindered. 1 a blue and a black for 2/4 legendary creature. Elder Wizard Vigilance. When it enters, draw a card, then discard a card at the beginning of your upkeep. If there are 14 or more cards in your graveyard, transform him. Hades, Sorcerer of Eld. 6/6 Avatar with Vigilance, Echo of the Lost. During your turn, you may play cards from your graveyard. If a card or token would be put into your graveyard from anywhere, exile it instead. Okay. So, I like this Emmett. I think this Emmett's perfectly fine. I think there's a lot of limitations, but I think it works. This Emmett is also fine. Now, it enters or attacks, you discard draw, or you draw a discard, so you have a loot on it, not the best, right? But, at the beginning of upkeep, if you have 14 or more cards in your graveyard, which you can get to pretty easily in CTH, you flip it, and then all of a sudden it's like, during your turn, you may play cards from your graveyard, right? So being able to play cards from your graveyard is pretty gross. You can probably get somewhere with that. If a card or token would be put into your graveyard from anywhere, exile it instead. So you have to, like, it's like a secondary push. The beginning of your upkeep, if there are 14. I think there's something here. There's a loot ability with him. I'm going to put him also in CDH. I like the colors by themselves. As the joke goes, is that if you're in Dimir, you can play a CDH deck. And I think he just kind of does the deck. I think he's just like, cool. He comes down turn 3. Or not turn 3. He can come down turn 1, but he's a 3-drop. He doesn't die to simple stuff because he's a 2/4. He's got Vigilance. He's attacking each turn to draw you cards, discard cards, which fills up your graveyard. You can kind of do a control field, but you can really push to put cards in your graveyard, and boom, he flips, and now you can just use your graveyard. So you can go for a win, and if you fail, Hades will flip, and you can just go, bam, win. So you're like, you can go for I'm going to try to go for a win. Oh, I lost, cool. Then this guy tries to win, and if you can stop him, like, go for a win, don't stop them from stopping you. And then you can stop the next guy, and then on your turn, flip Hades and go for your win again. I think that's kind of cool. Having a backup win with Emmett. So. Golbez Crystal Collector is a blue and a black for a 1/4 human wizard. Whenever an artifact you control enters, surveil 1. At the beginning of your end step, if you control 4 or more artifacts, return target creature card from your graveyard. Return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. Then if you control 8 or more artifacts, each opponent loses life equal to that card's power. Okay. 2-drop means it comes down on turn 1. It can come down on turn 1. Artifact entering, surveilling you is interesting. Then if you control 4 or more artifacts, return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. That's not bad. Like, it's slow though, right? So now all of a sudden you're playing a control deck. You're playing Stacks. And Stacks isn't great in CDH right now. Stacks is always good in 4. It's not allowed in like 3 or lower. You play Stacks in a 3 or lower. I mean, it's allowed in 3. 3 is anything goes and just get over it. 2, it's like, nah, don't play Stacks. But 4, it's like, you can play Stacks. It's fine. But Stacks isn't great in 5. You're allowed to. It's just you're in an uphill battle. I'm just wondering, is it good enough, right? So you're playing Artifact Stacks. Whenever an artifact you control enters, you surveil 1. Surveilling 1 every time an artifact. There's enough artifacts that you could probably make that work. And then all of a sudden you're just kind of sitting here going like, okay, at the beginning of your if you have 4 or more, you can return a creature card from your graveyard to your hand. So that gets you creatures, so you can run creatures that sack themselves to control the field and keep repeating them. And then if you 8 or more, each opponent loses life. So you can kind of win. Honestly, you could almost do... I mean, you're not doing win con this, but you can almost win with this CDH style. I'm pushing here saying it's CDH. You might just... It's lower CDH. But again, you can still just win with... Thoracle and Thoracle and Consultation with this deck. You can just go boom, boom, I win. But what you can also do is just like this kind of interesting thing where like, what's in your graveyard? Oh, yeah. What creature am I adding back? It's this huge 20/20 or like this 15/15. Like it's a 15 power card. Each of you guys lose 15 life because I have 8 or more artifacts in my. Like you just control the field till you go boop, take a bunch of damage. Boop, take a bunch of damage. And you can just kind of like... Yeah, I think it'd be kind of fun. I think you could get to a point. I would build this for CDH and just kind of see how it works. Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot. Let's go to the next. Lock Cole, or Loke Cole, is 1 a blue and a black for 2/3 human rogue with death touch and lifelink, and when it deals combat damage to player, draw a card, then discard a card. It's fine. It's fine. The loot isn't great. You're not getting much else. I'm just going to put it at 3. Maybe 2 even. It doesn't do enough. Like, you're filling your graveyard. So you're, in this case, you're probably a recursion deck. So I'm going to put 3. You get, at least it's in a self-mill deck I hate because then the problem with self-mill decks for recursion decks is that, like, you lose your ability to... keep your recursion cards in your hand. You don't know what's going to be milled. But in this case, you're looting. You draw, then discard. So you choose to discard the big guys. You keep the recursion spells in your hand. That's what this guy does. He hits. No one wants to block him because they'll lose something. So he hits them, and you go, draw, discard. There's my big guy. Here's my recursion spell. So I like him. I think he's a good 3. Sephiroth, Planet's Hair, Planet's Heir, is 4 a blue and a black for a 4/4 human avatar soldier with vigilance, and when it enters, creatures your opponents control get -2/-2 until end of turn. Whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, put a 1/1 counter on Sephiroth. So it's got vigilance. It's 6. Vigilance. When it enters, creatures your opponent control get -2/-2. So that's a board wipe on enter. Whenever a creature... Okay, so... all the creatures die, he gets big. He gets really big. Like, depending on who you're playing against. And I think that's what matters. The issue here is it depends on you play. If you're playing against a token deck, Sephiroth hits the field and then just like, oh crap. Here's all my tokens gone. That's 20 tokens that just disappeared. And that's 20 creatures that just died. So that's, yeah. No, but that's the issue is that you would never go up against a token deck. They'd see Sephiroth Planet's Heir. And just like anyone who sees the original, not Elspeth, the original White Praetor, I forget its name. They just go, I'm not playing my token deck against that. There's no point. They just won't play a token deck or a white weenie deck against your Sephiroth because they know it just won't work. So you're going to have to run ways to make them have tokens, and then you run into issues. I'm putting it here. I just think you run into too many issues where you're requiring your opponents to have creatures in order to work, and sometimes they won't. Next page. Ultimacia Time Sorceress is 3, a blue and a black for a 4/5 human warlock. Whenever it enters or attacks, surveil 2. At the beginning of your end step, you may pay 4, 2 blue and 2 black, and exile 8 cards from your graveyard. If you do, transform Ultimacia. Ultimacia Omnipotent is a 7/7 Nightmare Warlock with Menace and Time Compression. When this creature transforms into Ultimacia Omnipotence, take an extra turn after this one. Okay. Can you technically go infinite? If you return this to your hand... No, you couldn't. Because you'd have to have, not possible. Because of the Exile 8. Without the Exile 8, you could, theoretically. But with the Exile 8, you would never be able to go infinite. So, that being said, a 5 draw for a 4/5 that surveils you 2 on enter and on attack is fine. That's like a 2. And then, like, being able to flip it into a 7/7 with Minish that gives you an extra turn, I'm just going to keep it as 2. I don't think it's doing enough. Even with the extra turn on it, I don't think it hits 3. I think it's just kind of like, cool, I get an extra turn. Maybe that's enough for me to push for game or to remove a problem. Next up is Zandy Dark Mage. Zandy Dark Mage is 2 a blue and a black for a 3/3 legendary creature human wizard with Menace, and Zandy gets +1/+1 for each non-creature, non-land card in your graveyard. Oh. Okay. So again, it's another Voltron, but it's a fun one. It goes to 3. It does fun things here. What fun things? It is a spellcasting deck. Counters, cantrips, any of those small little 1-drop or 2-drop instants and sorceries that you cast. Wheels even work kind of, and then those non-creature, non-land cards end up in your graveyard. You run low land cards, no other creatures, just no creatures in this deck. And all of a sudden, you're just going to be like, here's all my lands, I just played them one at a time. This card comes out like turn 3, turn 4 probably, which is fine. Because it'll come out, and since you have a bunch of land cards in your graveyard, right? And you can run, you can run artifacts, actually, because, yeah, they're non-creatures. So artifacts are fine. The issue with artifacts is they're not going to be in the graveyard, right? So you want a small amount of artifacts that can ramp you, but you want to get stuff in the graveyard. So not the best point, but you do want to run some artifacts and enchantments to protect it so it doesn't die. So it isn't a Voltron deck, but most of its power should come from, like, a package of, like, 30, I like 33 lands, 33 artifacts and enchantments and auras, and then a nice 33 instants and sorceries that just hit the graveyard. That'll be enough to buff it. So, not bad. Okay, Rakdos cards. Black Waltz number 3. 2 a black and a red for a 2/2 wizard. Flying Death Touch. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, Black Waltz number 3 deals 2 damage to each opponent. Okay, classic card. This is just non-creature spell, 2 damage. This does so much. This is a classic 3. It's not going to get any higher. But this is in red black. This is just you run every non-creature spell that draws you a card. Every non-creature spell that draws you a card. And you just, all the, like, the cheapest ones, the 1s and 2 non-creature spells that you go, boom, draw a card, draw a card, draw a card. So each turn, you're just drawing cards. And once the Black Waltz is out, and you're just like, boom, 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 boom. And everyone's taking damage. And he's got Flying and Death Touch, so you're hitting people with him too. And eventually they'll all die. In theory, it's great. In practice, it's not enough damage to win you the game. That's at 40 life, it's 20 spells you have to cast to win the game. Okay? And it's problematic. There's just not enough. There's just not. You need rituals sometimes, but then like you run into the issue that rituals just don't do it for you because like they don't draw you cards. And then you end up having the rituals in your hand instead of the draw cards. Then you're like, let's not run the rituals. Let's just run the draw cards. And then you run the few cards that do give you treasures and stuff off of casting instants and sorceries or non-creature spells. So there's a balance, and I love this type of card. And having it as a commander is fun. Before, we just had, I think it was Gutter Snipe was the guy. It's just a fun guy who does it, but this, yeah, you just need to be able to push him. So, Black Waltz number 3, I love it. Next up is Garland. I just beat this guy, Knight of Cornelia. I just beat Final Fantasy 1 for the first time. I'm on to 2. A black and a red for a 3/2 human knight. 3, whenever you cast a non-creature spell, Surveil 1, for 3, 2 black and 2 red, return this card from your graveyard to the battlefield transformed, activate only sorcery. Chaos the Endless is a 5/5 demon with flying. When this creature dies, put it on the bottom of its owner's library. Here's the thing about Garland, and this is so true of everything in Final Fantasy 1. This card does nothing. Its transformation does nothing. Cool, you get a 5/5. Woo! Oh yeah! Nah, that's not... The good part is this surveil thing. This, whenever you cast non-creature spell, surveil. That's what's fun. And then I guess, like, if you can get stuff out to make equipment free, then, like, flip it and then equip stuff and beat someone up. This is still... Honestly, it's... But Surveil almost allows you to make this a graveyard deck. I'm putting it at 3, because it's kind of fun to run this as a recursion deck, where you're using his Surveil to dump your big creatures in the graveyard. And you're surveilling with the recursion spells. Man, they did my Garland bad. I love him. I love Final Fantasy 1. I think it's a great game, guys. Video on that on my new channel eventually. I'm gonna be making a pretty good video on it, I hope. But I gotta work on that when I have time. Kefka Dancing Mad is 5 a black and a red for a 6/6 human wizard. During your turn, Kefka has indestructible. At the beginning of your end step, exile a card at random from each opponent's graveyard. You may cast any number of spells from among cards exiled this way without paying their mana cost. Then each player who owns a spell you cast this way loses left. Okay, that was a lot. Let me break this down. I didn't even finish reading it. Kefka Dancing Mad is 5 a black and a red for a 6/6. Okay, 7 for a 6/6 is... Okay, it's already 7. That's gross. During your turn... Okay, I'm going to hold my cat for a second. During your turn, Kefka is indestructible. Okay, everyone knows I hate that effect. It's supposed to kind of be like... You can cast a board wipe and not lose your commander. So that's, I guess, fine. At the beginning of your end step, exile a card at random from each opponent's graveyard. Okay. You may cast any number of spells from among cards exiled this way without paying their mana costs. Okay. Then, each player who owns a spell you cast this way loses life equal to the mana... Okay. It doesn't go higher than a 3. Actually, screw that. It doesn't go higher than a 2. You cannot build around this commander. You can't really mill other players without blue. Okay? And that's a problem. So what you're going to be doing here is discard, which instantly means it has to be 3 because you can't really do discard in 2. People will get mad at you. So you had to play it at 3, which is fine. And then you're just going to steal people's cards randomly and see what happens. Let madness reign. Madness. But the fun part here is the board wipes. See, he's indestructible. So what that means simply is that you can just blow the field up to fill the graveyards, to fuel them, to fuel the madness. You won't lose your Kefka. You'll just blow the field up and they'll lose all their creatures. And then in the end step, Kefka will trigger and you'll steal those creatures. Which ones? Only fate will decide. I can't wait to play Final Fantasy VI. Again, I've never played a Final Fantasy game, guys. Other than 1. And like 30 minutes of 9. I'm a terrible Final Fantasy fan. I know. Well, okay. I think I put like 6 hours into 15. So. Kuja Gnome Sorcerer is... Or Genome Sorcerer is 2 a black and a red for a 3/4 human mutant wizard. At the beginning of your end step, create a tapped 0/1 black wizard creature token. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, this token deals 1 damage to each opponent. Then if you control 4 or more wizards, transform him. If a wizard you control deals damage to an opponent or player, it deals double that damage. Okay, so the fun thing about him is that you do at least get 3 wizards out of him that deal damage, and then he flips because he is a wizard himself. So then you control 4, and boom, now they're all dealing 2 damage, which is fun because it's more damage than him. This is 2 damage per spell. This one is like, okay, at glance, you're like, okay, it's 1 damage, and then it's 2 damage, and then it's 3 damage, but then it flips, and then it becomes 6 damage per non-creature spell. right? 6 damage. Okay? 6 damage. And he's dealing for 8 damage, right? Whenever he hits. But 6 damage per non-creature spell at 40 life is I'm not using a calculator. I'm not using a calculator. Is 7. That's only 7 spells you had to cast. Is it yeah. So that's better. It's slower, but it's better. But I'm just gonna put him at the same spot. Yeah. I think he's from 9, because he's got the black mages. Next up is Loke, Treasure Hunter. 1 a black and a red for a 2/3 human rogue. Loki can't be blocked by creatures with greater power. Mug. Whenever Loki or Locke attacks, each player mills a card. If a land card was milled this way, create a treasure token. Until end of turn, you may cast a spell from among those cards. Oh, okay. Okay, so he's doing like a... That's card advantage. Yeah, that is card advantage. But you need treasures, because you had to cheat. I'm putting him at a 3. You get good card advantage, but maybe you'll hit artifacts, though. I'll put him... I just don't think he belongs at 4. Maybe. I think you could do some decent good card draw with him, with the mug ability. Getting, like, enough stuff from people. And, like, the statement from CEDH players is that, like, if you're doing effects like this, like Ragavan, is that everyone plays, everyone's playing good cards, right? So, like, you're bound to hit something good. And then if you hit 1 land, right? But, like, CEDH, you're running too low of lands. So you're not going to get the treasures. But 4, you're still running, like, 33 lands. So... Setzer, Wandering Gambler, is a 1 a black and a red for a 2/2 human rogue pilot. When Setzer enters, create the Blackjack, a legendary 3/3 colorless vehicle artifact token with flying and crew 2. When a vehicle you control deals combat damage to player, flip a coin. Whenever you win a coin flip, create 2 tapped treasure tokens. It's too random. I'm putting him at 2. I just don't... Like, you can have a good time, but I think there's too much to work around. Okay, now we're on to Galgari. No, not Galgari. Gruul. Gruul? I think it's Gruul. Galgari is... Yeah, Gruul. Balthier and Frayne is... It's a rabbit. Human rabbit, yep. 1 a red and a green for a 4/3 human rabbit with reach. Vehicles you control get +1/+1 and have vigilance and reach. Whenever a vehicle crewed by Balthier and Fran this turn attacks, if it's the first combat phase of this turn, you may pay 1 a red and a green. If you do, after this phase, there's an additional combat phase. It's a vehicle deck. I'm going to just put it at 3. I think getting double combat on your vehicles... whenever a vehicle crewed... If you do, after this... Oh, vehicles you control get +1/+1 and have vigilance and reach. Okay. So the vehicles can keep attacking. Gotcha. No, that's not bad. I don't mind that. That's interesting. We could go with it. Next up... Barrett, Avalanche Leader. This is 2 a red and a white, or 2 a red and a green for a 4/4 human rebel with reach and avalanche. Whenever an equipment you control enters, create a 2/2 red rebel creature token at the beginning of combat on your turn. Attach up to 1 target equipment you control to target rebel you control. That's fine. That's just like run a bunch of equipment, make a bunch of creatures. The creatures get to attack. I think that goes to 3. You can do decent. This is just, yeah, a lot of equipment, a lot of creatures. You don't get far with it. There's not a lot of card draw. But there's enough, like, whenever an equipment enters, draw. Oh, maybe not. Not in those colors. You're lacking draw. But there's enough red cards that give you draw off of equipment. Is there? You might not. You might end up putting this in a 2. Well, but he can win. Okay, here's the thing, though. He has a win con himself, which is just cast a lot of equipment. So, and the equipment will have the draw itself. Yeah. That's fair. Glidolius Emissati, he's the guy from 15. Gladiolus Misitia. 4 a red and a green for a 6/6 human warrior. When it enters, search your library for a land, put it on the battlefield tap, then shuffle. When a land you control enters, another target creature you control gets +2/+2 and trample until end of turn. This is a landfall deck, but you can't just buff it, you have to buff other creatures. They can trample. Put it at 2. I think there's too much to jump around to really make it do much more. Next up is Red 13, Proud Warrior. This is 1 a red and a green for a 3/3 beast warrior with vigilance and trample. Other modified creatures you control get vigilance and trample, which is equipped, aura, and creatures with equipped creatures or equipment, auras you control, and counters or modifications. Okay. Cosmo Memory is when Red 13 enters, return target aura or equipment card from your graveyard to your hand. Okay. They get vigilance and trample. I think it's fine. It's not doing too much. I'm just going to put it here. It's not bad. This is terrible. These aren't doing much. This is not bad. It's not doing enough. Rita, Summoner of Mists, is a red and a green for a 1/2 human shaman with landfall. When a land you control enters, you may discard a card. If you do, draw a card. Summon. X. Tap, return target saga with mana value X from your graveyard to the battlefield with a finality counter on it. It gains haste until end of turn. Activate only as a sorcery. This is a simple 3. I think there's enough sagas to really, really push the card to its next inevitability. I think it can do good, and it does do good. And the more sagas you get, the better it will be. Next up is Terra Magic Adept, and this is simply put the best card of the set. It's the highest chance of being CDH. It's probably TDH, you know. Terra Magic Adept is 1 a red and a green for a 4/2 human wizard warrior. When it enters, you mill 5 cards, put up to 1 enchantment card, milled this way into your hand. Trance, 4 red, green, tap, exile, then return it to the battlefield, transform it into control, activate only as a sorcery, tap. Pay 1, create a token that's a copy of a target non-legendary enchantment you control. It gains haste. If it's a saga, put up to 3 lore counters on it. Sacrifice it at the beginning of your next end step. That's the first 3 chapters. Chapter 4, you add Wooburg twice and then exile it and return it. That's not. The point here is that when it enters, mill 5 cards, put up to 1 enchantment card, milled this way into your hand. Terra is a 5-color food chain deck, because you can infinitely recast Terra and then eventually get an enchantment to your hand. But you add an enchantment creature to your hand so you can cast it with your food chain so that you can then eventually get your cards to your hand so that you can just win the game that way. So you can just win like with Thoracle. Or you can infinitely mill your deck out and then cast, return an enchantment that returns Thoracle to your hand, that cast Thoracle for the win. So that is the way the deck works, and it is probably the best Wooburg food chain deck we've ever had. So, because it can add a food chain to your hand, because food chain is also a Wooburg, or also a enchantment. So, yeah, that's the deck. That's the idea. It's fine. It's the best, probably the best card we got out of the set. Not the most fun, but really good. Aerith, Last Ancient, is 2 a green and a white for a 3/5 human cleric druid with lifelink and rise. At the beginning of your end step, if you gain life this turn, return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. If you gain 7 or more life this turn, return that card from to the battlefield instead. This is just kind of a fun graveyard deck. It's a life gain deck. But you got to return it to your hand, so you got to put cards in your graveyard. Good thing green has good ways to like mill you and you put cards into your hand. So I think this hits like a nice 3. Next up is Garnet, Princess of Alexandria, which is a green and a green and a white for a 2/2 human noble cleric with lifelink. And when it attacks, you may remove a lore counter from each of any number of sagas you control and put a 1/1 counter on Garnet for each lore counter removed this way. This is like a weird saga enchantress deck or Voltron deck, but I think it hits a 3. It does fine. There's enough sagas again nowadays to just make it work. Next up is Rinoa Heartily, which is 3 a green and a white for a 4/4 human rebel warlock. When it enters, create Angelo, a legendary 1/1 green and white dog creature token. Angelo Cannon. Whenever Rinoa Heartily attacks. Another target creature you control gets +1/+1 till end of turn for each creature you control. Dang, I cannot talk. Yeah, you're supposed to buff the dog, I guess. And then your creatures... Yeah. I read that card so bad because Rinoa Heartily is hard to pronounce, and Angelo is hard for me to pronounce. I'm so bad at those names. This is just like run all the creatures you can. Sure, it's a 3. It does its job. Sarah Farin is one a green and a white for a 2/2 human citizen. When the first legendary creature spell you cast each turn costs 2 less to cast. That's not bad. And at the beginning of combat on your turn, if you control 2 or more other legendary creatures, you may transform it. Crystallized Sarah. The first legendary creature spell you cast each turn costs 2 less to cast. Legendary creature spells you control cost 2 less. Get +2/+2. If you control 2 or more other legendary creatures. Oh, I think this card's seeing play CDH inside of I forget her name. But as a commander itself, it's just kind of a fun Legendary Matters deck. Because it's a Legendary Matters. And the first legendary you cast each turn costing 2 less is not bad. And then at the beginning of combat on your turn, if you control 2 or more, you flip it. And giving everything a buff is not bad either. So that's just like a 3. Enough legends to make it work. Shalinda Yevon Acolyte is a green and a white for a 2/2 human cleric with lifelink, and whenever another creature you control enters, put a 1/1 counter on that creature. If its power is less than Sheldon's power, otherwise put a 1/1 counter on it. This is a 1/1 counter deck, so I'm just going to put it in 3 because there's enough to make that work. Just kind of keep everything going. Waka Devoted Guardian is 2 green and a white for a 4/4 human warrior with reach and trample. Whenever Waka deals combat damage to a player, destroy up to 1 target artifact that player controls, and destroy up to 1 target artifact on a creature and put a 1/1 counter on Waka. Blitzball Captain, at the beginning of your end step, if a counter was put on Waka this turn, put a 1/1 counter on each other creature you control. This is just kind of like a better 1/1 counter deck than Hit, where he is just going to keep hitting and getting 1/1 counters and popping stuff, so I don't mind it. I don't think it's great. Although that removal of artifacts, I think I might put it at a 4 just to be able to pop artifacts. Is not bad. Okay, we're getting to the near the end. Una Hope of Spera is 3 a green and a white for a 3/5 human cleric. During your turn, Una and enchantment creatures you control have trample, lifelink, and ward 2. At the beginning of your end step, return up to 1 target enchantment card from your graveyard to the battlefield with a finality counter on it. Okay, so this is just like recurring enchantments from your graveyard constantly. You want to put them in the graveyard. You can do that with green. And then it and enchantment creatures you control get trample, lifelink, and ward 2. That's also not awful. I'm still just going to put it at 2 because I don't think there's enough to really push this to the next level, but it's okay. Ardbert, Warrior of Darkness, is 1 a white and a black for a 2/2 Spirit Warrior. Whenever you cast a white spell, put a 1/1 counter on it. On each legendary creature you control, they can Vigilance on turn. Whenever you cast a black spell, put a 1/1 counter on each legendary creature you control, they can Menace. So this is all about just casting black and white legendaries so that they, legendaries. So they buff each other, and then they also get their stuff. It's kind of an interesting idea. I like it. It's not great, though. It's just kind of there. I'm going to put it at 2. It can do its stuff, but there's too much of a limitation. Estinian Varlinero is 2 a white and a black for a 3/3 elf warrior. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, put a 1/1 counter on it. It gains flying till end of turn, and at the beginning of your second main phase, you draw X cards and lose X life, where X is the number of opponents that were dealt damage by it this turn. That were dealt damage by it? How does that work? Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, put a 1/1 counter on it, and it gains flying till end of turn. At the beginning of your second main phase, beginning of your second main phase, draw X cards and lose X life, where X is the number of your opponents who were dealt. Or a dragon this turn. I didn't read that part. Or a dragon this turn. Okay. Or a dragon. Okay, so this is all about playing dragon. Oh, it's a dragon deck. Okay. But there's way to draw cards, so I'm putting it up into like probably 4. Because there's a lot of good ways to draw cards. Maybe. I think the dragons is expensive in those colors. Yeah. But a good way to possibly draw 3 cards and lose 3. It's a bad Timda, I guess. That can buff itself. Yeah. Judge, Magister, Gabbrinth is white-black for 2/2 human advisor knight with menace, and whenever another creature or artifact you control dies, put a 1/1 counter on it. This is, again, all about just aristocrating and then getting them big and beating people up, which puts it like 3. There's enough aristocrats to make it work. Papalimo Totolimo is a white and a black for a 1/2 dwarf wizard. Okay, they don't change that. Dwarf wizard for a 1/2 dwarf wizard. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, it deals 1 damage to each opponent and you gain 1 life. For 4, you can tap it and sacrifice it, and each opponent who lost life this turn sacrifices a creature with the greatest power among creatures they control. So that's a good way to just kind of remove problematic cards, and then you can recast it. But the main thing here is you're draining people for casting non-creature spells. So you're just going to cast a lot of non-creature spells and just drain your opponents. And maybe run a few more. You can probably do some stuff. I'm going to put it 3. 3. Rufus Shinra is 1 a white and a black for a 2/4 human noble. When it attacks, if you don't control a creature named Darkstar, create Darkstar legendary 2/2 white. Dark creature token. This card does nothing. I'm putting it as a 1/1. It's a 2/4 that comes in with the 2/2. Nothing. That's fair. Squall Seed Mercenaries, 2 a white and a black for a 3/4 human knight mercenary. When Rough Divide. Whenever a creature you control attacks alone, it gains double strike until end of turn. Okay, so it attacks by itself. It gets double strike, and whenever Squall deals combat damage to a player, return target permanent card with mana value 3 less from your graveyard to the battlefield. This is definitely just like I'm putting it for. This is another just a really good Voltron commander, because it comes in, it attacks it because it's attacking alone. It has double strike, and then the cards that you milled yourself with. Because you like let's say you milled the good cards, you can just return those permanents back to from your graveyard to the battlefield, right? And you do it twice because you had double strike, because you get the equipments back to your hand to the battlefield, or you can run stuff that sacrifices themselves to do stuff and put it back in the field. It's gross. You can do so many good things with this card. I almost want to put it CDH, but like use. When it does combat damage to a player, return target permanent card. There's almost stuff you can do with this. Like when a creature you control attacks alone, it can double strike. So you're hitting people for 6. If you can, like all of a sudden you're returning 2 things. So you can really play a control deck where like you play small things that get sacrificed to remove problematic cards your opponents control, and then you get it back. And you get it back, right, because you can return a target permanent card with 3 less from your graveyard to the battlefield. And then that's on the first one, and then before the second hit goes, you can sack it, boom, pop something. Yeah, I'm going to keep it at 4. I would try it at 5. Shintato Technician Magician is 1 a white and a black. One a blue and a red For a 0/4 Dwarf Wizard, whenever you cast a non-creature spell, Shintato gets +X/+0 until end of turn, where X is the amount... My cat's making noise. Where X gets +X/+0 until end of turn, where X is the amount of mana spent to cast it. If X is 4 or greater, you cast this. You may draw a card. So there is draw a card on this thing, but it's 4 or greater, so you run into issues. So I kind of keep it at 3. It's okay there. It's not great, but it does get big, because whenever you cast non-creature, it gets +X/+0, where X is the mana spent. So if you cast a few like 4-drops, like 2 4-drops all of a sudden, you're drawing 2 cards, and it's getting like +8. So that's, yeah, that's not terrible. Next up is Tela, Great Saga, or Great Sage. This is 3 a blue and a red for a 3/3 human wizard. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you make a 1/1 colorless hero creature token. If 4 or more was spent to cast that spell, draw 2 cards. If 8 or more was spent to cast that spell, sacrifice this and deal damage. Deal that many damage to each opponent. Yeah, so if you cast like a big spell, you can deal a lot of damage. You can cast like a 8-drop and then just go boom, you know. And that's where like you can win with this card in a fun way, where you're running like, I think it hits 3. You might be able to do a 4 with him though. Getting 1/1s just whenever you cast a non-creature spell, like in a control deck, is pretty good. Being able to get casting 4-drops to be able to... That's the problem, though. You have to cast 4-drops to draw, but you draw 2 for casting 4-drops is pretty good. And then the 8-drops, being able to just, like, come out of nowhere and just freaking wreck the system and give you, like, so much more is insane, guys, right? Like... The 8-drops, yeah, you had to sacrifice Tela, right? But then you can recast him. I know he's a 5, which is why I'm probably going to drop him down to 3. A lot of things up into 3, but that's okay. I think he's a good 3-bracket guy. And I'd like to build him. Next up is the Emperor of Palamecia. This is a blue and a red for a 2/2 human noble wizard. Tap. Add a blue or a red. Spend this mana only to cast non-creature spells. You may cast non-creature spells if at least 4 mana was spent to cast it. Put a 1/1 counter on Emperor. Then if it has 3 or more 1/1 counters on it, transform it. Its transformation is the Lord Master of Hell. 3/3 Demon Noble Wizard with Starfall. Whenever the Lord Master of Hell attacks, it deals X damage to each opponent, where X is the number of non-creature, non-land cards in your graveyard. So, yeah, if you can flip this guy, which is not that hard, all of a sudden it attacks. And if your graveyard's just filled up, you're just like, cool, each opponent, you're just all going to lose like 10 life here, or 20 life. You just want to fill your graveyard up with like artifact spells. You can do a lot with this card. I think this card probably goes to 4. Next up is Vivi. Vivi is a Siege card. Right up there. I love this card. I've actually done a video on it if you want to go check it out. So Vivi or Ornithare is 1 a blue and a red for a 0/3 wizard. 0, add X mana in any combination of blue or red where X is Vivi Ornithare's power. Activate only during your turn and only once each turn. When you cast a non-creature spell, put a 1/1 counter on Vivi Ornithare, and it deals 1 damage to each opponent. So you cast a spell, it gets bigger, you deal a damage to each person. This is a Curiosity deck, so you put Curiosity on it, or a Curiosity effect. So 1 damage to each person draws you 3 cards. And you cast another one, draw 2 cards. And it keeps getting bigger and bigger. And the bigger it gets, then you eventually play 0. You add like 10 mana or 5 mana. And then you try to go off to deal more damage, to draw more cards. And just try to find your win con. That's how it works. The thing is that he doesn't do anything by itself. And a lot of people... So right away, right now, people are afraid of it. When it first came out, they were all like, oh no, we got to stop it. What if it gets Curiosity? But by itself, it doesn't do anything. So people just kind of leave it alone. But what you're doing is making it bigger and still getting mana. So you're still doing stuff with it. You're still like, oh, I have mana and I can still get that mana this turn. Let me use that mana and try to get stuff done. So people are realizing, cool, let me do this. And you just get it out like turn 1 or turn 2, even without a Curiosity effect. And you're just like dealing small damage to everyone a little bit and getting it bigger. And then triggering its effect and getting like 5 mana and doing a wheel effect and going, oh, there's my Curiosity, casting Curiosity, and now you have a brand new hand. And so it's weird and it's risky, but that risk can be worth it. And I like messing around with the deck. It's one of my favorite. Vivi's my favorite character from all of Final Fantasy. I think its story is sad. and just super connecting. So when your life is fleeting, just enjoy it. And that's really what this card pushes. Enjoy life. Cloud of Darkness. This is so funny. Cloud of Darkness is 2 black and 2 red, green, 2 green for a 3/3 avatar flying particle beam. When Cloud of Darkness enters target creature an opponent controls gets -X/-X until end turn, where X is the number of permanent cards in your graveyard. So this is all about just flickering Cloud of Darkness. I'm just going to put it in like 2 because you're not in the right colors to really make it work. Where did it just go? It was here. It was just here. Looks like that. Did it end? Oh, there it is. Yeah, it's not doing enough. X-Death Voidwalker is 1 a black and a green for a 3/3 Spirit Warlock. When it enters, you gain 3 life. At the beginning of your end step, if there are 6 or more permanent cards in your graveyard, transform it. When it enters, so it becomes Neo Exo Death Dimensions End. Star 3 Spirit Avatar. Trample. Neo Exo Death's power is equal to the number of permanent cards in your graveyard. So I like it. I think this card's fun, but it's not great. I'm just going to put it here. Like, it's all about, like, okay, it enters, you gain 3 life, and then you just want to mill yourself, and boom, there's 6 permanents, and now it's just mill yourself more. It becomes huge. You punch people. So probably a 3. It can work pretty well. Genova Ancient Calamity is 2 a black and a green for a 1/5 alien. When it deals combat or at the beginning of combat on your turn, put a number of 1/1 counters equal to Genova's power up to power on up to 1 target creature. That creature becomes a mutant in addition to other types. When a mutant you control dies during your turn, draw cards equal to its power. So this card's kind of interesting. So you want to make Genova big. So equipments work pretty well, or auras. But if you can put equipment and auras on Genova to make Genova big, all of a sudden you're putting more counters on stuff. They die because they're mutants, and then you just draw a bunch of cards because they die. So I think this is a pretty good 3. I don't think it's much bigger because you need them to die, and that's problematic. Banon, the Returner's Leader, is a red and a white for 1/3 human cleric rebel with prey. Once during each of your turns, you may cast a creature spell from among cards in your graveyard that were put there from anywhere other than the battlefield this turn. When you attack, you may pay 1. Discard a card if you do draw a card. So this is all about being able to just cast creature spell cards from your graveyard, and then so you attack, boom, and then you go, cool, let me draw, and then discard this creature, or pay 1, discard, draw, and then just do it again. So I think it hits a 3. Because you can kind of just keep getting the creatures out. Not the best, though. Cloud, Planet's Champion, is 3 a red and a white for a 4/4 human soldier mercenary. During your turn, as long as Cloud is equipped, it has double strike and indestructible. Equipment abilities you activate that target Cloud cost 2 less to activate. So this is just another Voltron, and it's just another 3 Voltron. It's fine. It's a 4/4. You can board wipe with this guy to clear the field. It has double strike as long as it's equipped, which is good. And the equipment being cheaper is not bad either. So I think it just hits like a nice 3. Edgemaster Mechanist is 2 a red and a white for a 2/4 human. Artificer Noble. With once during each of your turns, you may cast an artifact spell from your graveyard. If you cast a spell this way, that artifact enters tapped. Tools. Whenever Edgar attacks, it gets +X till the turn, where X is the greatest mana value among artifacts you control. You can get like a nice 10-drop artifact out, and then it's just going to 2-shot someone, or if you give double strike, 1-shot someone, which is good. That's the whole point. That's what you want to do with this guy. And being able to cast an artifact spell from your graveyard once a turn is great because you have wheels in red, and you have ways to loot in red. So that's kind of the point. I think it actually might hit 4 because of that recursion ability. Gito, or Jot, King of Dwarfs, is red, white for a 1/1 Dwarf Noble with double strike, and whenever it or another dwarf you control enters, or whenever an equipment you control enters, you may discard a card if you do draw a card. That's interesting because you're putting stuff in the graveyard, but without a way to get it back, it's annoying. And you don't always have a way to get it back in this deck. So I'm going to just... I'm going to just put you in at 2 because the deck itself doesn't have recursion, and that's problematic. Joshua Phoenix's dominant is one. Phoenix's dominant is one a red and a white for a 3/4 human noble wizard. With whenever Joshua enters, discard up to 2 cards, then draw that many cards. So you discard 2 cards, then draw that many cards. Okay, discard up to 2. 3 a red and a white. You may exile it, then return it to the battlefield. Transform. Under its owner's control, activate only as a sorcery. Transforms into Phoenix Warden Fire. Chapters 1 and 2, it deals 2 damage to each opponent, and at Chapter 3, you return any number of target creature cards with total mana value 6 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Exile it, return to the battlefield. I think this card's a really fun commander. Like, really fun. I love these loop cards where you can kind of control the field, and you can run, like, hate bears to make it slow down. So you just discard 2 cards. What cards? Creatures, so that you can get them back. And then for 5, you exile it, you return it, you're dealing some damage, you're going boom, get the creatures back, and then you just go, what am I doing next? Well, and you're hitting people with the flying lifelinker, right? And then what do you do next? You just flip it back, boom, and then you're discarding 2 more cards, drawing 2 more cards, and then just continuing the play. I like it. I think it's fun. It's not great. It's like a 3, but I do like it. Lightning Army of 1 is 1 a red and a white for a 2/2 human soldier with first strike, trample, and lifelink. Stagger. Whenever lightning deals combat damage to a player until your next turn, if a source would deal damage to that player or a permanent that player controls, it deals double that damage. So, lightning is interesting. So whenever it deals combat damage to a player, it has first strike, trample. Whenever lightning deals combat damage until your next turn, if a source would deal damage to that player or permanent. Your next, yeah. So lightning bolts deal 6 damage. This is fun. I think in like Commander it goes to 3. I think this is great and Standard and Pioneer burn decks. I don't think it hits Modern. I'd like to try it in Modern, and I'd like to get told by my friend again that it doesn't belong in Modern. Stop building decks in Modern. You're not good in Modern. Your decks in Modern should just be Pioneer decks, but you keep putting Modern only cards in it. Start just building decks there. Why do you keep building decks in Modern? And it's because I like Modern. He's not mean, guys. He's right. If anyone's ever interested in seeing my Modern decks, let me know. I'll make a Modern deck video. They're fun, but to be fair, what happens is I see a card like Lightning Army of 1, and I go, oh, I like this card in Modern. So what do? Well, it's a 3-drop, so this will be my 3-drop in the deck, and I'll put it in the deck, and then I'll put lightning bolts and other things that do damage, and then I'll run this, and so I'll get it out, and I need to get it out turn 2, so I got to find a way to get it out turn 2 in these 2 colors, and I like 2-color decks. I don't want to add a 3rd splash. I could have needed, and then I'll get this card out turn 2, turn 3 I'll swing with it, try to hit them. It has trample, so I'll probably be able to get in, gain some life with it, deal damage, and then I'll just like go for a big push. So if I can hit them, then like, let's say I can actually hit them. Let's say I do 3 damage with her. Like a best case scenario, that's 3 damage. And then a lightning bolt is 6 damage. So that's 9. A second lightning bolt, so that's 9. The second one would be 6 more. So that would be 6 or 15. Yeah, 15. And then another lightning bolt would be game. So even if it's not lightning bolt, it's other cards. So you could almost make it work. Yeah, that's what I would do. And I'd probably maybe add another color. I could make it Jeskai. That'd be interesting. Yeah, I could make lightning work in Modern. I'm not saying it'd be great. It'd be in Modern Light. I could definitely make lightning work in Pioneer. But that's boring. Let me make it work in Modern. The thing is if you can make it work in Modern or even just Modern Light, then just remove the Modern cards and add the Pioneer cards. So, but Commander, guys, I think it's fun. I don't think it goes any better than that, though. Because you had to hit the other players. Until the next turn, if a source would deal damage to that player. That's the biggest issue. It's to that player, right? The cool thing, though, is that, like, if a source would deal damage to that player, so other players could team up against them. So that'd be kind of cool. But home stretch, maybe? Mog Moogle Warrior. It's 1 a red and a white for a 1/2 Moogle Warrior with lifelink and dance. At the beginning of your end step, each player may discard a card. Each player who discards a card this way Draws a card. If a creature was discarded this way, you create a 1/2 white Moogle creature token with lifelink. Then if a non-creature card was discarded this way, put a 1/1 counter on each Moogle you control. I love this card. May discard a card though, so they may. If they had to, it would be good. May means you discard a card and you either get a Moogle or a pump, and then they might do it. That dampens this card down to 2. You can't force people to do stuff. Sephiroth Fallen Hero is 3 red and a white for a 7/5 human avatar soldier with Genova cells. Whenever Sephiroth attacks, you may put a cell counter on target creature. Until end of turn, each modified creature you control gets... A creature you control has power and toughness 7/5. The Reunion, pay 3, sacrifice a modified creature. Return this creature from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. I don't mind that, honestly. He's fine. He's not doing a lot, but I'll put him at like a 2. Zidane, Tantalus, Thief is 3 red and a white for a 3/3 human mutant scout. When it enters, gain control of the target creature an opponent controls until end of turn. Untap it. Gains lifelink, haste until end of turn. Whenever an opponent gains control of a permanent from you... whenever an opponent gains control of a permanent from you, you create a treasure token. So untap it, gain lifelink until the enter. So they regain control of it, so you make a treasure because you stole from it. That's cool. So this is all a flicker deck. I think it gets 3. I think you're stealing stuff, you're attacking with them, you're using them, and then you're giving them back. And this is kind of cool in 9 because 9's all about like everything. Everyone keeps going back and forth. But it's kind of cool because Zidane is then like you're flickering it in white and keep stealing stuff and making treasures. I like it. Ignis Scientia is 1 of white, 1 of green and a blue for a 2/2 human advisor. When it enters like the top 6 cards of your library, you may put a land card from among them onto the battlefield tapped, put the rest on the battlefield library in random order. I've come up with a new recipe, 1 of green and a blue, tap it. Exile target card from your graveyard. If a creature card was exiled, make a food token. I'm just going to put him at like 2. He's not doing enough. He's just kind of ramping you a little, and that's fine, but it's not great. Yeah. Kim Mahir, Valiant Guardians, 2 green and a blue for a 3/3 cat warrior with vigilance. At the beginning of combat on a turn, put a 1/1 counter, a +1/+1 counter on Kimara and tap target creature and opponent controls. Then you may have Kimara become a copy of that creature, except its name is still Kimara Valiant Guardian and has vigilance and this ability. Okay. That's not bad. I think it really depends on your opponent's creatures, though, so I'm going to put him here at 2. Omega Heartless Evolution is 5, a green and a blue for an 8/8 robot with wave cannon. Whenever it enters, for each opponent, tap up to 1 target non-land permanent that opponent controls. Put X stun counters on each of those permanents, and you gain X life for X to the number of non-basic lands you control. That's interesting. It's not doing anything. Putting it at 1. It sounds cool, but it's not doing anything. Well, you're going to flicker it and just keep tapping. What if they're not playing creatures? Oh. Sin, Unending Cataclysms, 5, a green and a blue for a 5/5 Leviathan avatar with flying and trample. As Sin enters, remove all counters from any number of artifacts, creatures, and enchantments. Sin enters with X/1/1 counters on it, where X is twice the number of counters removed this way. When Sin dies, put its counters on target creature control, then shuffle this card into its owner's library. Okay, so you can just put it back there. Ignore your opponents. This guy comes in and can be very, very big based off of the stuff your creature, your stuff. But because of that, I'm just going to put it at 2 because it's not great. The Wandering Minstrel is a green and a blue for a 1/3 human bard. Lands you control enter untapped. At the beginning of the Minstrel's Ballad, at the beginning of combat on your turn, if you control 5 or more towns, create a 2/2 elemental creature token. That's all colors. For 3 in Warburg, other creatures you control get +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the number of towns you control. There is enough towns to make this deck work, and I like it. I think it's a good 3. It's not great, but it is fun. You're just like making those little guys and then buffing them. So, okay, now we're at the 3 colors. So last stretch here, guys. Gara Tai Scion Reborn is Esper. So white, blue, black for a 2/3 cat wizard with lifelink. Throw wide the gates. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you may pay X life, where X is that spell's mana value. If you do, create a 1/1 colorless hero creature token and put X 1/1 counters on it. Do this once each turn. I think this is fine. It's a fine, like, 3. Yeah, getting a 1, it's not great. I think it's fine there. Noctis, Prince of Lucius, is 1 in Esper for a 4/3 human noble with lifelink, and whenever you cast an artifact spell from your graveyard, you may pay 3 life in addition to paying their other costs. If you cast a spell this way, that artifact enters with the finality counter on it. Or you may cast artifact spells from your graveyard by paying 3 life in addition to the other costs. If you cast a spell this way. Yeah, I think this card instantly just allows you to probably be here because Esper is good. It allows you to kind of push to the next level. Yeah, I think it's fine there. You can probably do enough with artifacts in your graveyard. Yushatile Knight's Blessing is 1 in Esper for a 2/4 cat warlock with vigilance, and at the beginning of your end step, if a player lost 4 or more life this turn, you draw a card, and whenever you cast a non-creature spell with mana value 3 or greater, it deals 2 damage to each opponent, and you gain 2 life. This card is a CDH deck. Again, it's not a great one, but it is there. It does enough damage. You're gaining enough life. Or the life gain's not matter, but you're dealing enough damage. You're getting enough control. The problem is that it is a control deck, but you're Esper, and Esper is just like good. Kefka Court Mage is 2 a blue, a black, and a red for a 4/5 human wizard. When it enters or attacks, each player discards a card, then you draw a card. For each card type among cards, discard this way. For 8, each opponent sacrifices a permanent of their choice. Transform Kefka only as a sorcery. Kefka, Ruler of Ruins, a 5/7 with flying, and whenever an opponent loses life during your turn, you draw that many cards. So Kefka, like, the thing about this guy is you want to say he's good because he hits, everyone discards, so you can kind of flicker him to make everyone keep discarding cards, and then you draw cards for each card type among cards discarded this way, so you can try to, like, draw 2 or 3 cards each turn, and then for 8, you're getting this big guy that can hit people, and when they hit, you're going to draw cards, but it's slow. It's slow, and the slowness means it's stuck in 4. It's only stuck in 4, which is fine. It's fine. It's a good 4. It just doesn't do enough to hit 5. And then Cloud X Soldiers, 2 Anaya for a 4/4 human soldier mercenary with haste. And whenever Cloud enters, attach up to 1 target equipment you control to it, and when it attacks, draw a card for each equipment attacking creature you control. Then if Cloud has power 7 or greater, create 2 treasure tokens. The thing about Cloud is that it's not a bad commander. It's actually pretty good. It's got draw, it's got card advantage, it's like a 4. But the problem with Cloud is that it's not, it requires you to run bad cards, like equipments. You don't want to run equipments in the deck. So you run into that issue. But it does make you treasures, and it does draw you cards. I honestly think you could probably put it to 5. I think you could make Cloud into a 5 if you, really tested it well, because you could get him to 7 pretty easily with, just 1 equipment, making it 3. Giving it 3 power, you just be like, boom, now he's drawing me 2 cards, or he's getting me 2 treasures, and then, just running all these, cheap equipments that are cheap to play, cheap to equip, or, they equip themselves automatically to these already good Naya creatures. And then what am I doing? Oh, cool. I'm just swinging with them against people who can't remove my creatures. And then I'm drawing cards. And it has haste, so it triggers the effects right away. And when it enters, attach up to 1 target equipment you control. So just any equipment that'll make it to 7, so I can get treasures. And even attacks, draw a card for each equipped creature you control. So even by itself, it's drawing you a card. And if you can equip a 3, you're making 2 treasures. This does stuff. I think it's good enough to be a 5. I think you could do something there. Next is Tifa Martial Artist. This is 1 Anaya for a 4/4 human monk with melee. So when it attacks, whenever this creature attacks, it gets +1/+1 for each opponent that's attacked. And whenever 1 or more creatures you control with power 7 or greater deal combat damage to a player, untap all creatures you control. If this is the first combat phase, this is an additional combat phase. So this is fine. I think it just hits a 3. An extra combat step is fine. You just need to deal power 7 or more is gross. So you have to play equipment. I guess if you're attacking all 3 opponents, she becomes the 7/7, so you get that extra combat step, and that's fine. So that's good, but I think it's a little too much. Choco, I love Choco, but it's not good. Choco is 1 and banned for a 3/5 bird. Whenever one or more birds you control attack, look at that many cards from the top of your library. You may put one of them into your hand, then put the number of land cards from among them on the battlefield, and the rest in the graveyard. Landfall. When a land hits the battlefield, Choco gets +1/+0. This is a landfall deck. This is meant to be like Zoo, and it's kind of funny, and I love it, but it's not good. It's just going to go into 3, though. Titus, Yuna's Guardian is just straight banned for a 3/3 human warrior. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you may move a counter from target creature you control onto second target creature you control. Cheer. Whenever one or more counter creatures you control with counters on them deal combat damage to a player, you may draw a card or proliferate. Do this once each turn. I just don't... I like to proliferate. Whenever one or more creatures you control with a counter on them deal combat damage to a player. To a player? I think that only... Yeah, it's once each turn. So you proliferate as long as you deal damage. And then, like, you can move one of the counters to someone else at the beginning of combat. So, like, if you get a new creature, you move the proliferated counter over. So that's what you're supposed to do. I think it's a 3, but I just think it's obnoxious, just like 10. Final Fantasy 10 can be. Yuna, Grand Summoner, is 1 and banned for a 1/5 human cleric. Grand Summon, tap, add 1 mana of any color. You make, when you next cast a creature spell this turn, that creature enters with 2 additional 1/1 counters on it. Whenever another permanent you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, if it had 1 or more counters on it, you may put a number of 1/1 counters on target creature. That many number of 1. That is just okay. So, Bant 1/5 human cleric Grand Summon. Tap. Add 1 mana of any color. When you next cast a creature spell this turn, that creature enters with 2 additional 1/1 counters on it. Okay. So they come in with 2 counters. If you can double it, that's not bad. Whenever another permanent you control is put into your graveyard from the battlefield, if it had 1 or more counters on it, you may put that number of 1/1 counters on target creature. So, yeah, if it had 5 counters, 1/1 counters, if it had 5 1/1 counters and 6, like a Vigilance counter and 6 Mobilized Gundam counters, that's 6, 7, 12 counters. 12 1/1 counters to put on something. Cool. That's not bad. Celis Rune Knight is 1 in Mardu for a 4/4 human wizard knight. When it enters, discard any number of cards, then draw that many cards +1. Would 1 or more other creatures you control enter? If 1 or more of them entered from a graveyard or was cast from a graveyard, put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control. That's just obnoxious. In order to be able to make that work, you really just need to, like, have ways to recur stuff. I guess discard any number of cards means it's a recursion deck, and it allows you to select how you're doing it, and that's fine. Plus, you get the extra draw off of it. You're in the white, so you can flicker it. I think this deserves to be in 4. And you can buff the stuff that gets in. Tira, Herald of Hope, is Mardu for a 3/3 human wizard warrior with trance. At the beginning of combat on your turn, mill 2 cards. Tira gains flying until end of turn. Whenever Tira deals combat damage to a player, you may pay 2. When you do, return target creature with mana value. Return target creature card with power 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Okay. This is doing Alicia, who smiles at death. And so it hits a 4. Alicia's actually a really good commander. And this is doing that same thing. It does have to deal the damage. But at the beginning of combat, you do mill 2 cards, which is good. You're filling your graveyard up. And it gains flying, so it has a way to get around stuff. But it has to deal the combat damage. But Double Strike helps with that, so you can double trigger it. But it's 2 of anything, making the trigger is easier. And it's 3 or less power instead of 2 or less power. So I think that's pretty good. Next up is the big guy. Sin Spire's punishment is 4, a black, a green, and a blue for a 7/7 Leviathan Dragon avatar with flying. When it enters or attacks, exile a permanent card from your graveyard at random, then create a tapped token that's a copy of that card. If the exile card is a land card, repeat this process. It's fine. I actually think it's pretty good, but it's expensive, so I'm just going to put it there. Now we get the 2 colorless commanders. It's the last 2 of the 162 cards, by the way. The Warring Triad is 3 generic for a 5/5 god, legendary artifact creature god, with flying, trample, and haste, and as long as there are fewer than 8 cards in your graveyard, it isn't a creature. Tap, mill a card, target player adds a mana. So it's a ramp spell. It's the 3 generic for a ramp spell that becomes a 5/5 god. Doesn't do anything. And then Ultima Origin of Oblivion is 5 generic for a 4/4 god with flying, and when it attacks, put a blight counter on target land. For as long as that land has a blight counter on it, it loses all land types and abilities, and it has tap, add a colorless. Whenever you tap a land for colorless, add an additional. So this card does something, but it's not good. So there you go. There is every single card commander ranked in Commander, or in this set. Okay? You've got 1-0, a few 1s, a lot of 2s here. The majority of them ended up in 3. You got a few 4s and just 1, 2. I think 9 CDH cards. I think there's 9 CDH cards that are fine, that you could like take to CDH deck and go table and play. I don't think any of them are TDH. Maybe Terra could be TDH, but I don't think any of them really hate TDH. Maybe Vivi. But I think 9 CDH deck cards that are just like fine. That are good. I like them. So, but yeah, that's my opinion. Let me know down below what you think. And if you did listen this long hour and a half, feel free to sub. Peace.